Right, hiya. This is the first video I'm making in 2023, and we're in July. Not just the first video I've made in 2023, but it's the first video I've made in a whole year. My last video was in June 2022. I've never gone a whole year without making a video before, but as I've said before, I only really do videos when I have an urge, if I have something to speak about. So since you're seeing this video, of course today I have something to speak about. Now in July 2015 I started this channel under the name Cookie Monster, an alias that I used so a lot of people wouldn't find me. It wasn't my name or anything like that. I spelt it very obscurely and it was really hard for people to find my channel, and even those that wanted to see my content and subscribe to me, they found it very hard to find my channel because it was such an obscure way of spelling this name. I did this because I talked about very personal topics regarding my sexuality and things that I wouldn't talk about with friends even or my family, but I wanted to find people like me. I wanted to find other asexuals, other people that were in similar boats to me, because this is something I really lacked in everyday life here in the UK. I never met anyone that was also an asexual. And at that point in my life, when I was 18, 19 and started making these videos, this concept of asexuality was still very new to me. I knew I was asexual. I sort of defined as that from the ages of 16, 17. Every single description I sort of matched, and I finally found an identity that I could associate with in asexuality. And whilst this was a nice idea, it was sort of a bittersweet moment because I felt at that time, at least, that I was alone. I was alone. It was nice to have an identity, but I couldn't find anyone else like me. So why am I bringing this up now? Why am I bringing up the past from 8 years ago and how I felt then? Well, it's when most of my content is from. I haven't deleted any of it. It's still on my channel. You can still go and watch it. And honestly, it's what most people watch on my channel. Those comments that I get and notifications I get from YouTube saying someone's commented on my video is usually from 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And when I watch these videos back, I often cringe at them and at my perception of asexuality there and my priorities. And I feel like I was a child in a lot of them. And but there's a reason I keep them on my channel. If I felt like that, if I really cringed at them, why wouldn't I just delete them? It's a journey at the end of the day. I was young and I know people change over time. I know everyone is a different person when they're a teenager compared to that when they're 27 or in their late 20s like I am. So I see it as a journey, and I hope other people would see it like that too. And I often respond to some of these comments that are left on my videos about how things have changed and maybe they should check out a recent video, and then I remember there are no recent videos because I haven't made a video in a year, so there's no updates on this. So in this video, I really want to see how I perceived my sexuality in the past compared to how I see it now, how it affects my daily life, what has happened in this 8 years since I started my channel, what experiences have I had that my sexuality has affected. And there's a lot of interesting things here that has led me to be a lot more confident with my sexuality and a lot more understanding of my sexuality too. I feel like I understand this a lot more because I've grown and developed as an individual in comparison to when I was 18, 19. When I was 18 and 19, I had quite dark thoughts towards this. I felt like because I was this way, I would fail to find a partner. I would fail to have kids. I'd fail to sort of human development in this sense. I believed at that time that this idea of sex is what people should do, are expected to do, and that's it really. And I was broken because I didn't like it. If people have watched my channel for a long time, you'll know that this is a real thoughts that I had, that I knew I was asexual, but I really didn't want to be this way because of the effects it had on my life at that stage. At that time, I was often comparing a few years ago, before I was 18 and 19, when my friends also wouldn't talk about sex because people hadn't developed in that way. We hadn't gone through puberty yet. And again, there were such innocent conversations then, and I could join in with them. We all like, I'm hetero-romantic. I still like girls in the same way as a lot of my friends did. So these conversations that I used to have with them when I was in my early teens, I fit right in. But then in my late teens, I sort of didn't fit in because they started talking about sex and the desire for this, and I couldn't contribute to these conversations, and I often felt left out. And when I came to my first year of university, when sort of sex was the main topic of conversation, I was living with 5 guys that their sole purpose of going on a night out is not just drinking, but also finding a nice girl, and sex was just a huge part of the culture there. And I really felt subordinated from this, and felt like I didn't belong in this life because I wasn't this way. So when I compare that to today, where my sexuality doesn't even matter in everyday life, that I never even feel like I need to bring it up in conversation, and I don't. It's not something that is spoken about so much. This notion of sex isn't so much at the forefront of conversations like it seemed to be during university times. I really don't have a problem with it anymore. It's just part of who I am. I understand it really well now. I've known I was asexual for 10 years now, over 10 years now. So I've really got to grips with this, and I'm a lot happier in myself for being this way, because I'm more understanding, more accepting, more understanding of this, rather than just having such a negative mindset of why am I like this, I'm broken and all of this. And this is why when I watch my old videos, I cringe so much, because again, I just was so closed-minded to the idea. I was never once looking at the benefits of this being this way, or looking at on the bright side, and that there's so many other things in life that you can focus on, and that your sexuality just isn't a big deal regardless of who you are. I feel like as my priorities have shifted as I've got older, focusing on my job, focusing on traveling, as you can see behind me, you can clearly see I like traveling, has really helped, because again, it just shows that just dwelling on a sexuality or what that has on your life, it really doesn't matter. Things I was worried about in the past, whether I was going to find a girl or get married, and all of these things, and feeling like I would struggle with that, I'm not so worried about anymore. I'm 8 years older. I'm still single. I still am no closer to getting married, but I'm not too worried about it. And even a lot of people in my position would be worried about it. And I hear a lot of things from close friends of mine worrying that when are they going to find someone and stuff like this. But again, I think that's just an afterthought that shouldn't be so focused on, because if you keep dwelling on it, it's just not going to change anything, and there's just no point in focusing on things you can't control. Although I'm much more accepting, understanding and open about my sexuality now compared to in the past, I still feel like it plays a part when it comes to dating and finding the right person. I still have a desire for being in a relationship, but I haven't dated anyone in over 4 years. I'm not as persistently looking for a relationship like I was in the past. I was very keen on finding someone, and I put too much effort into finding someone, which in turn sort of made me a bit depressed when I wasn't finding the right person. I'm not like that anymore. If the right person comes along, they come along. I don't see it as something that's a goal of mine. It's just, if it happens, it happens. But that being said, when something like this does happen, or something begins to develop, I still have this anxiety inside of me, because I get quite attached to people, and when it comes to the physical aspect of it, this is when the problems start to arise. And although if I'm seeing someone and I tell them that I'm asexual, they might be quite understanding at first and accepting, and this is fantastic. But obviously, as the relationship develops, this notion of sex is sort of to be expected in a lot when it comes to a lot of heterosexuals, and this often hinders the relationship from progressing. An easy thing to combat this is dating another asexual, right? And you would think, but they're very few and far between. It's hard enough finding someone that's interested in you, you're interested in them, they don't live too far away, they've got similar interests as you. You know, there's lots of categories in finding someone, and a lot of people that are heterosexual struggle finding the right person, right? So if you top that with finding an asexual that's also like you, this really limits your options, and it's really hard to find someone that's very similar to you in this aspect. So it's really hard to find an asexual to date. Also, asexuality is a spectrum, and there's people, again, I really like intimacy. I really like closeness. I really like a lot of aspects of a heterosexual relationship outside of the actual sex part. So whereas some aromantics or some sex repulsed people, completely sex repulsed people, wouldn't want any of this intimacy, and that would affect the relationship as well. So it's really hard to find someone that you would click with and have the right relationship with. So it's not too easy, and that's again why I think if the right person comes along, they come along, but I just don't put too much focus on that. There's no point in dwelling on it when there's other things in life you can focus on. I travel a lot by myself. I do a lot of things by myself, and that's much better than sort of just sitting in my bed worrying, when am I going to find the right person? When am I going to do this and do that? There's no point in sitting around just worrying about things that are out of your control, when there's so much you can still do by yourself and enjoy life. This idea and this concept that's ingrained in society that, you should find someone, you should have kids, you should grow old with them, get married, all of this stuff. I think that plagues the mind into thinking that if you don't have this, then you've done something wrong. You're not successful. You're not progressing in society, and why? That's ridiculous. So I hope you can see from this video how my perception has changed, how I was prioritizing the wrong things, and my focus was on so many of the negative parts about being an asexual and being a minority in sexuality in general, in comparison to now, where I really don't let it affect me at all, and it's really not a big deal. So if you're watching this and you've just discovered you're asexual, and it's really difficult and it's really challenging being a minority sexuality, first of all, I completely understand you. I had the exact same thoughts as you at one point, so feel free to reach out to me, feel free to comment on this video or message me privately. That's not a problem, but really try to put your focus on something else, something more positive, something that you're able to do, something that can give you a sense of enjoyment, right? Because there's lots of these aspects in life. You don't need to focus on trying to fix something that cannot be fixed, because it doesn't need to be fixed. Society tells you that it needs to be fixed, but it doesn't. So just focus on the beneficial things and the things you enjoy, and you'll have a much better life, believe me. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll speak to you hopefully very soon, in hopefully not another year. Okay, take care.